Hello. Assalamu alaikum. Pakistan stands at a pivotal crossroads, grappling with the challenges that threaten its very existence. From eternal strife in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to shifting geopolitical alliances, how we navigate these challenges will define Pakistan's future. This video dwells deep into Pakistan's internal and external crisis, regional instability, domestic unrest, and global power shifts, while offering practical, actionable solutions. Welcome, friends, to this deep dive into the future of Pakistan in a rapidly shifting global and regional landscape. In today's video, we'll analyze the emerging trends that pose both opportunities and challenges for Pakistan. As we navigate through an era marked by regional instability, internal unrest, and shifting alliances, the decisions we make now could determine our future trajectory. From the insurgencies in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to the uneasy relationship with neighboring Afghanistan and India, the region is fraught with geopolitical complexities. We will also examine how external pressures, be it from the shifting global power dynamics, proxy wars, or socio-political changes, are impacting Pakistan today. But most importantly, this discussion is aimed at offering actionable solutions. The future of Pakistan is not set in stone, and we must take calculated steps to preserve the stability and sovereignty of our nation. This video is designed for intellectuals, policymakers, and everyone invested in the future of Pakistan. As we explore what must be done to steer our beloved homeland away from existential crisis. Let's begin by looking at the major fault lines in the region and their potential impact on Pakistan. In recent years, the global balance of power has shifted significantly, and this realignment is having profound effects on regions like South Asia. The once unquestionable dominance of the United States has waned, allowing regional powers like China and Russia to assert their influence. This shift has brought both instability and new opportunities. But for countries like Pakistan, it presents complex challenges. Pakistan is situated in a highly volatile region surrounded by Afghanistan, Iran, India, and China, each with their own strategic interests. The Taliban's rise in Afghanistan after the US withdrawal in 2021 has been a critical development. The return of the Taliban government, which has close ties to the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan (TTP), complicates Pakistan's security situation. While the Taliban may not directly threaten Pakistan, their support of the TTP is a growing concern. This allows insurgent groups to operate more freely, destabilizing Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and the border region. Simultaneously, China's deep involvement in Pakistan, particularly through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor (CPEC), is a double-edged sword. While the economic benefits are significant, frequent attacks on Chinese nationals and infrastructure reveal the vulnerabilities of this partnership. Pakistan is caught in a delicate balancing act, trying to maintain strong ties with China while addressing the insurgencies and security issues that threaten these investments. Relations with India remains hostile, and the unresolved Kashmir conflict continues to strain diplomacy. Any major conflict with India risks further destabilizing the region and could draw in global powers like China and the US, each with vested interests in maintaining a delicate equilibrium. At the same time, Iran-Pakistan relations, while improving, remain cautious. The potential for increased cooperation is there, especially in terms of energy and trade. But long-standing issues like sectarian violence and differing geopolitical alignments hinder full collaboration. Pakistan is thus positioned at a crossroads where it must navigate these shifting global dynamics. The collapse of long-standing fault lines in Europe, the Middle East, and the East Asia further complicates Pakistan's security and diplomatic outlook. The ongoing war in Ukraine, instability in Palestine, and tensions in the South China Sea add layers of unpredictability that Pakistan must consider in their foreign policy strategy. For Pakistan, the way forward lies in aligning with emerging global power structures while managing regional instability through proactive diplomacy and military preparedness. However, reliance on external powers like the US or China to resolve internal issues is no longer a sustainable approach. Instead, Pakistan must strengthen its own institutions and enhance regional cooperation to weather these global and regional power shifts effectively. Pakistan's internal challenges are perhaps more pressing than its external ones. The fault lines in Balochistan and KPK have been simmering for decades, but they are now approaching a critical point. These conflicts, deeply rooted in historical grievances, governance failures, and ethnic marginalization, are being compounded by the shifting geopolitical landscape. Balochistan, a struggle for autonomy and resources. Balochistan, Pakistan's largest but least developed province, has long been a hub of separatist sentiment. The region's ethnic Baloch population has expressed grievances over economic marginalization, resource extraction, and political disenfranchisement since Pakistan's inception. While the province is rich in natural resources, particularly gas and minerals, the Baloch feel excluded from the profits. Successive governments have failed to distribute wealth equitably, fueling resentment and giving rise to the various insurgent groups like the Baloch Liberation Army (BLA). The government's response has largely been one of force, using military and intelligence agencies to crush the insurgency. However, this approach has only fueled the cycle of violence, with militants using guerrilla tactics to target infrastructure, military personnel, and increasingly foreign interests like Chinese investments in CPEC. The support of foreign actors, including India's, as alleged by the Pakistani state, provides these groups with resources to continue their operations. Though it's important to note that the Baloch struggle predates any external interference. The solution for Balochistan: addressing grievances. Addressing Balochistan's unrest requires a multi-pronged approach. First, economic inclusivity. The government must engage the Baloch population in the development process, ensuring that they benefit from the wealth their province generates. Investing in local industries, creating jobs, and developing infrastructures like education and healthcare can reduce the sense of alienation. Second, political representation. The central government needs to grant Balochistan more political autonomy by decentralizing power and allowing greater self-governance. Balochistan's residents may feel more control over their future. Ensuring that Baloch leaders have a seat at the decision-making table can reduce feelings of disenfranchisement. Third, negotiation and dialogue. Dialogue between the government and insurgent groups, though difficult, is essential. A ceasefire agreement followed by genuine attempts to address long-standing grievances can pave the way for a peaceful resolution. It will require significant trust-building measures, but the long-term benefits outweigh the short-term use of force. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, religious and ethnic divides. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, bordering Afghanistan, faces a different set of challenges. Two parallel movements define the unrest here. One driven by religious militancy, particularly the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, and the other by ethnic nationalism, embodied in the Pashtun Tahaffuz movement (PTM), led by figures like Manzoor Pashti. The TTP, with ideological and logistical support from the Afghan Taliban, has waged a relentless campaign of violence against the Pakistani state. Their aim is to impose a radical version of Islamic law in Pakistan, and their tactics include bombings, assassinations, and attacks on military installations. The Afghan Taliban's return to power has emboldened the TTP, creating a security nightmare for Pakistan. Despite efforts to broker peace deals, the TTP remains a potent force with deep-rooted networks in the tribal areas of KP. On the other hand, the PTM is a peaceful movement that seeks to address the long-standing grievances of the Pashtun people. They called for an end to military operations in tribal areas, justice for extrajudicial killings, and the removal of landmines. While not insurgent in nature, the PTM's growing influence has alarmed the state, which views it as a challenge to its authority in the region. The solution for Khyber Pakhtunkhwa: balancing security and rights. First, countering the TTP. Pakistan needs to strike a delicate balance between military force and political solutions when dealing with the TTP. While military operations have been somewhat effective in pushing militants back, they alone will not eliminate the threat. The state must cut off the TTP's external support networks, particularly from Afghanistan, while also addressing the socio-economic conditions that give rise to militancy. Second, engaging the PTM. The PTM presents an opportunity for Pakistan to resolve long-standing grievances in KP without violence. Instead of treating the PTM as an existential threat, the state should engage its leaders in dialogue, acknowledging and addressing the legitimate concern of the Pashtun people, such as justice, basic human rights, and economic development, will go a long way in reducing tensions. Third, socio-economic development. Like in Balochistan, the long-term solution in KP lies in exclusive economic development. Investing in education, infrastructure, and healthcare will uplift the region's population and reduce the allure of extremism and militancy. The broader implications. The conflict in Balochistan and KP are not isolated. They are part of a broader pattern of unrest in Pakistan, driven by a failure to address ethnic and religious tensions. These internal fault lines make Pakistan vulnerable to external interference, with regional powers seeking to exploit these weaknesses for their own interests. To stabilize these provinces, Pakistan must recognize that brute force is not a long-term solution. Instead, genuine efforts to include these regions in the political and economic fabric of the nation, combined with the regional cooperation and dialogue, are essential. If these conflicts are allowed to escalate further, the very integrity of Pakistan as a nation state could be at risk. Pakistan's geopolitical position places it at the heart of a global power struggle between the two giants, China and the United States. Both superpowers have vested interests in the region, with Pakistan playing a critical role as both a partner and a pawn in their broader strategies. The complex nature of these relationships require Pakistan to navigate a delicate balance act, one that is becoming increasingly difficult as global power dynamics shift. Pakistan and China, the all-weather friendship. China has been Pakistan's closest ally for decades, with their relationship often described as all-weather friendship. Economically, strategically, and militarily, the two countries have deepened their ties, particularly since the launch of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor in 2015. CPEC is the flagship project of China's Belt and Road Initiative, and it represents a massive investment in Pakistan's infrastructure, energy, and trade sectors. For Pakistan, CPEC is a lifeline for its struggling economy. The development of highways, ports like Gwadar, and energy projects has the potential to modernize Pakistan's infrastructure, create jobs, and enhance trade with China and beyond. However, it also places Pakistan in a position of dependency on China, both economically and diplomatically. The heavy loans associated with CPEC and the growing presence of Chinese workers and interest in Pakistan have sparked concern over sovereignty, with some critics warning of a debt trap. Strategically, China views Pakistan as a key partner in its border contest with the US. For influence in South Asia, Pakistan provides China with access to the Arabian Sea and critical trade routes that bypass India, giving China a strategic edge in the region. In return, China has been a consistent supplier of military hardware to Pakistan, supporting its defense capabilities and providing a counterbalance to India's growing ties with the US. Pakistan and the US, a strained partnership. Pakistan's relationship with the United States, on the other hand, has been far more complicated and fraught with tensions. The two nations have had a tumultuous history shaped largely by Cold War alliances, the war on terror, and the US involving strategic interest in South Asia. While Pakistan was once a critical ally of the United States during the Cold War and the war in Afghanistan, the relationship has soared in recent years. The US has often expressed frustration with Pakistan's alleged duplicity in its counterterrorism efforts, particularly its support for the Afghanistan Taliban and the Haqqani's network, even as it received billions of dollars in military and economic aid from Washington. Pakistan, in turn, has felt increasingly alienated by what it perceives as United States favoritism towards India, particularly in the area of trade, military cooperation, and nuclear technology. With the United States withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021 and the end of its military engagement in the region, Washington's reliance on Pakistan has diminished significantly. The Biden administration's focus has shifted towards India as its key partner in countering China's influence in the Indo-Pacific, further straining relations with Pakistan. The US-China rivalry and Pakistan's dilemma. As tensions between China and the US continue to escalate, Pakistan finds itself in a precarious position. On the one hand, its economic dependence on China through CPEC and other initiatives make it difficult to distance itself from Beijing. On the other hand, Pakistan cannot afford to completely sever ties with the US, which remains a vital source of military aid, international legitimacy, and access to global financial institutions. Pakistan's challenge is to balance these two relationships without alienating either side. So far, Islamabad has attempted to play both sides by maintaining strong ties with China while seeking to repair its relationships with the US through diplomatic engagements and cooperation on shared interests like counterterrorism. However, as the US intensifies its strategic partnership with India and the global competition between the US and the China heats up, Pakistan's room to maneuver is shrinking. Navigating the geopolitical chessboard. Pakistan's ability to navigate this geopolitical chessboard will depend on several key factors like first, economic independence. Reducing its economic reliance on China through diversified investments and trade partnerships will give Pakistan more leverage in its foreign policy. This could involve seeking greater economic ties with Gulf states, the Europe Union, and regional partners like Turkey and Central Asia. Second, diplomatic balancing act. Pakistan needs to continue its diplomatic efforts to maintain a functional relationship with the US, particularly in areas like counterterrorism, climate change, and regional security. At the same time, it must avoid becoming overly dependent on China, which could limit its foreign policy options. Third, strengthening regional alliances. Pakistan could benefit from deepening its relationships with other regional powers such as Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia to counterbalance the growing US-India partnership and reduce its reliance on both China and the US. Pakistan's participating in organizations like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization also offers a platform to diversify its diplomatic outreach. 4. Neutrality in great power competition. If Pakistan can position itself as a neutral actor in the US-China rivalry, it may be able to extract benefits from both sides without fully committing to either. This would require careful diplomacy as well as focus on internal stability and economic resilience. A high stakes game. The geopolitical chessboard is fraught with risks for Pakistan. Its strategic alliance with China provides economic benefits and security assurances, but it also risks pulling Pakistan into China's conflict with the US. Conversely, a weakened relationship with the US could further isolate Pakistan on the global stage, especially as India's influence grows. Ultimately, Pakistan's success in navigating this high stakes game will depend on its ability to remain flexible, avoid entangling itself too deeply in either camp, and focus on building its internal strength economically, politically, and militarily. In a world defined by shifting alliances and power struggles, Pakistan must find its place without sacrificing its own sovereignty and national interests. Amidst Pakistan's complex geopolitics and regional challenges, Perhaps the most insidious and immediate threat to the nation's stability comes from within. The rise of religious intolerance coupled with political chaos and institutional decay poses a genuine existential danger to Pakistan's long-term survival as a cohesive state. The roots of religious intolerance. Religious intolerance in Pakistan has deep historical roots, dating back to the partition of British India in 1947. Born as a nation state for Muslims, Pakistan has grappled with its identity as both a secular state and an Islamic republic. Over time, this struggle has fostered internal divisions along sectarian, religious, and ethnic lines. The Islamization policies of the 1970s and 1980s under General Ziaul Haq further entrenched religious conservatism, injecting radical interpretations of Islam into the country's legal and social frameworks. These policies have since reverberated through society, leading to the rise of extremist ideologies, violent sectarianism, and intolerance of religious minorities. Groups like the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and various sectarian organizations have capitalized on the fertile ground, spreading hatred and violence. The result has been a steady erosion of pluralism and tolerance in Pakistan, as religious minorities, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, and even minority Muslim sects like Shias and Ahmadis face increasing persecution. Mob violence, blasphemy, accusations, and targeted killings have become distressingly common, turning Pakistan into one of the most dangerous countries in the world for religious minorities. The blasphemy law and its consequences. Pakistan's blasphemy laws, introduced in their current form during the 1980s, have played a central role in the fostering an atmosphere of religious intolerance. These laws, particularly Section 295C of the Pakistan Penal Code, which mandates the death penalty for insulting the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, have been used not only to target minorities but also to settle personal scores and stoke communal violence. The blasphemy law is often misused to accuse individuals, particularly from minority groups, of blasphemy based on flimsy evidence or fabricated allegations. Once accused, these individuals face severe societal backlash, and even if acquitted, their lives are often in danger due to mob violence or extrajudicial killings. The assassination of Punjab's governor Salman Taseer in 2011 by his own bodyguard Mumtaz Qadri for opposing the blasphemy law highlighted the deep societal divisions over the issue. Taseer's death was a stark reminder that religious extremism is not limited to fringe elements but has penetrated mainstream society, where radical views are often celebrated. Sectarianism and internal fragmentation. Religious intolerance also manifests in violent sectarianism, particularly between Sunni and Shia Muslims. Pakistan's Shia community, which make up about 10 to 15% of the population, has long been a target of extremist Sunni groups like Lashkar-e-Jhangvi and Sipai Sahaba. Sectarian violence has claimed thousands of lives in Pakistan, particularly in areas like Karachi, Quetta, and Parachinar. where sectarian tensions run high. The state's inability or at times unwillingness to clamp down on these extremist groups has exacerbated the problem. Pakistan's security apparatus has often turned a blind eye to these groups due to their strategic utility, particularly in neighboring Afghanistan and Kashmir. However, this policy of tolerating religious militancy has backfired, with sectarian violence spiraling out of control and undermining the very fabric of Pakistan's society. Political instability and institutional decay. Compounding the problem of religious intolerance is Pakistan's perennial political instability. The country's political landscape has long been marred by a volatile mix of military rule, weak civilian governments, and corrupt leadership. Frequent changes in government, often through military coups, have prevented the development of strong democratic institutions, leaving a vacuum that extremist forces have been able to exploit. The civilians, leadership, and the military establishment has further weakened the state's capacity to address its internal challenges. The military's disproportionate influence over Pakistan's foreign policy and security decisions has often led to neglect of pressing domestic issues, including education, healthcare, and infrastructure development. Meanwhile, political parties across the spectrum from the Pakistan People's Party to Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf and Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz have failed to present a unified vision for the nation's future. Infighting, corruption, and a focus on short-term political gains have overshadowed the need for long-term reforms. This political chaos has allowed extremist groups to gain more ground, filling the ideological and leadership vacuum left by the state. The role of madrasas in radicalization. One of the key drivers of religious extremism in Pakistan is the unchecked growth of madrasas, many of which are funded by foreign sources and promote radical ideologies. While madrasas have traditionally played a role in providing education to the unprivileged, a significant number have become breeding grounds for extremism. These schools, particularly in rural and impoverished areas, offer free education, boarding and food, making these attractive to families who cannot afford formal schooling for their children. However, many madrasas have limited their curriculum to religious instructions with a heavy emphasis on conservative or extremist interpretation of Islam. This leaves students with little exposure to modern education or alternative worldviews, making them susceptible to radicalization. While some efforts have been made to reform the madrasa systems and bring it under government regulation, progress has been slow. The lack of political will, combined with the influence of powerful religious lobbies, has hindered comprehensive reform. Real existential threats, extremism, and division. The confluence of religious intolerance, sectarian violence, and political instability poses an existential threat to Pakistan. These internal fault lines threaten to tear the country apart from within, undermining its ability to address pressing issues such as economic development, poverty alleviation, and regional security. For Pakistan to survive and thrive in the 21st century, it must confront this internal menace head on. This will require a multi-pronged approach, including first, legal reforms. Reforming or repealing the blasphemy laws and other discriminatory legislations is crucial to fostering religious tolerance and protecting minority rights. Second, countering extremism. The state must take decisive action against all forms of extremism, including sectarian groups and radical madrasas. This will require not only military operations but also ideological counter-narrative that promote pluralism and tolerance. Third, educational reforms. Reforming the education system, particularly the madrasa network, is essential to curbing radicalization. Introducing modern subjects and critical thinking into the curriculum can help create a more tolerant and well-rounded citizenry. Fourth, political stability. Strengthening democratic institutions and reducing the military's role in politics are critical steps toward creating a more stable and accountable government that can address internal challenges. Fifth, promoting interfaith harmony. Efforts to promote interfaith dialogue and harmony must be prioritized, with the state playing a proactive role in fostering tolerance and understanding between different religious and sectarian communities. Pakistan's future hinges on its ability to overcome the forces of religious intolerance and political chaos. While external threats from regional rivals or global powers may be pressing, the real existential threat comes from within. If left unaddressed, these internal divisions will continue to erode the nation's stability, undermining its potential for peace, prosperity, and progress. Throughout history, nations and empires have risen and fallen based on a delicate balance between morality and power. For Pakistan, understanding these lessons from the past can provide valuable insight into the ongoing struggle to navigate both internal and external challenges. The dilemma of power versus morality. At the heart of this lies the timeless debate. Should a nation prioritize power at the expense of moral principles, or should it strive to uphold ethical values even when doing so may weaken its geopolitical standing? That's a question. History is full of examples where the pursuit of power without moral restraint has led to short-term gains but long-term collapses. Conversely, nations that uphold a moral compass tend to inspire loyalty, unity, and resilience, though they may face immediate struggles. Pakistan's trajectory since its independence can be seen through this lens. The state's early focus on power through alliances, militarization, and regional competition has at times sidelined the moral foundations of justice, equality, and religious tolerance, upon which the nation was originally conceived. The result has been a gradual erosion of societal unity and trust in institutions, compounded by political corruption and the abuse of power. Historical case study: the fall of the Roman Empire. One of the most powerful empires in history, Rome, offers a stringent lesson in the relationship between power and morality. In its early days, Rome's republic was built on the values of civic duty, governance by law, and a strong moral code. Over time, however, the quest for military dominance, territorial expansion, and the personal power among elites led to moral decay. As corruption and internal divisions took root, the empire's foundations crumbled from within, leading to its eventual downfall. For Pakistan, the lesson from Rome is clear. Without a strong moral fabric holding society together, no amount of external power or military strength can ensure long-term survival. The pursuit of unchecked power, whether through military rule, political manipulation, or religious extremism, has historically undermined nations, and Pakistan risks falling into the same trap unless these tendencies are addressed. The moral example of Salahuddin Ayyubi. On the other hand, history also offers examples where morality and power have worked in harmony to build lasting legacies. Salahuddin Ayyubi, the famed Muslim leader during the Crusades, exemplifies how moral values can elevate a leader and inspire a nation. Known for his chivalry, justice, and respect even for his enemies, Salahuddin's example highlights that power, when wielded with a strong moral compass, garners respect and long-term stability. Salahuddin's conquest of Jerusalem in 1187 is remembered not just for its military success, but for the mercy and humanity he showed to the city's Christian inhabitants. His moral authority extended beyond his military might, earning him a place of honor not just among Muslims but also in the annals of Western history. For Pakistan, the lesson here is that a commitment to justice, tolerance, and humanity can strengthen the nation internally while enhancing its standing in the world. The partition of India, a lesson in moral costs. Pakistan's own history provides a powerful lesson in the cost of ignoring morality for the sake of power. The partition of British India in 1947, which created the state of Pakistan, was marked by one of the largest mass migrations and bloodiest episodes in human history. The political leaders of the time, both British and Indian, prioritized the division of territory and political power over the human cost. The result was communal violence, religious intolerance, and the forced displacement of millions of people. The trauma of partition continues to shape Pakistan's internal and external relations, particularly in its strained relationship with India and persistent divisions within its own society. The moral failure of partition, where power and territory were prioritized over human lives and social harmony, offers a critical lesson for modern Pakistan. The pursuit of political or military power without regard for the moral consequences can have long-lasting and destructive effects. Pakistan's current moral dilemmas. Today, Pakistan faces several moral dilemmas that will shape its future. These include the treatment of religious minorities, the protection of women's rights, and the government's approach to political dissent. The state's failure to uphold basic human rights and justice undermine both its domestic stability and its international reputation. Religious intolerance, the suppression of political freedoms, and the concentration of power in the hands of elites have created an environment of disillusionment and disenfranchisement among ordinary Pakistanis. If the state continues to prioritize power, whether in the form of military dominance, political control, or religious conservatism over morality, the resulting internal fractures could deepen, leading to future instability. Learning from the moral leadership of Jinnah. Pakistan's founder Muhammad Ali Jinnah envisioned a nation where justice, equality, and religious freedom were paramount. In his speech on August 11, 1947, Jinnah articulated a vision of Pakistan as a state where all citizens, regardless of their religion, would have equal rights and opportunities. His commitment to these moral principles was intended to lay the foundation for the united and progressive nation. However, over the decades, Jinnah's vision has been overshadowed by the state's focus on power, consolidation, and regional competition. Reclaiming Jinnah's moral vision is essential for Pakistan's survival as a cohesive and prosperous nation. The lesson from history is clear. Without a commitment to justice, equality, and moral governance, no nation can achieve lasting stability or prosperity. So, what's the path forward? Pakistan stands at a crossroads where it must decide between two paths, one that prioritizes power at any cost and one that seeks to balance power with morality. History teaches us that nations which sacrifice their moral integrity for short-term gains ultimately face long-term. Pakistan must learn from these lessons and chart a course that values justice, tolerance, and human dignity, even in the face of geopolitical challenges. Only then can it secure a stable and prosperous future for its people. As Pakistan confronts internal challenges and external pressures, it is imperative to reimagine a new path forward. The nation stands at a pivotal point in its history where proactive solutions can prevent decline and chart a course towards stability, growth, and prosperity. In this area, we are going to outline some actionable solutions focusing on governance, reforms, social cohesion, and international diplomacy while emphasizing a balanced approach to power and morality. First, strengthening democratic institutions. The first step towards a stable Pakistan lies in strengthening its democratic institutions. Pakistan's history of military interventions and political instability has weakened the democratic fabric of the country. For sustainable progress, Pakistan must prioritize the following: free and fair election. Ensuring that elections are transparent and devoid of interference is crucial. An independent election commission free from political and military influences will restore faith in the democratic process. Judicial independence. The judiciary must remain independent and free from political pressure. A strong judiciary ensures that laws are upheld and that political leaders are held accountable for corruption and misuse of power. Decentralization of power. Empowering local governments will allow for more responsive governance. Decentralized systems can better address the specific needs of regions like Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, reducing grievances that arise from centralized top-down decision making. Second, promoting religious tolerance and social inclusion. Religious intolerance has deeply fractured Pakistan's society. Moving forward, Pakistan must embrace inclusivity and social harmony to build internal strength. Some key steps that must be taken include educational reforms, introduction of educational curricula that promote tolerance, diversity, and the shared history of various religious and ethnic groups in Pakistan. This will combat the rise of extremist ideologies at their root and encourage a more cohesive national identity. Protecting minority rights. Enforcing laws that protect the rights of religious and ethnic minorities is essential. Pakistan must demonstrate that all citizens, regardless of faith, are equal under the law and free to practice their beliefs without the fear of persecution. National dialogues on sectarianism. Facilitate dialogues between different religious groups to promote understanding and bridge divides. Religious leaders can play a pivotal role in de-escalating tensions and fostering peace. Third, economic reforms and development. Pakistan's economic challenges exhibited by political instability and regional unrest require urgent attention. So to set Pakistan on a path to growth and prosperity. Revitalizing the economy. Pakistan must reduce its dependence on foreign aid and loans by investing in domestic industries, particularly in agriculture, technology and energy. This requires tax reforms, reducing bureaucratic red tape and creating an environment conducive to business. Job creation and youth empowerment. With a rapidly growing population, particularly a youth demographic, job creation must be a top priority. Programs focused on vocational training, entrepreneurship, and digital literacy can equip the younger generation with the skills needed to succeed in a global economy. Combating corruption. Corruption siphons billions of dollars out of the economy and weakens state institutions. A robust anti-corruption strategy backed by enforcement mechanisms will ensure that the resources are channeled into development rather than personal enrichments. Fourth, building regional stability through diplomacy. Given Pakistan's strategic location, its future hinges on stable relationship with neighboring countries and global powers. Diplomacy must be at the forefront of Pakistan's foreign policy. Strengthening relations with China and the US. Pakistan's relationships with China and the US are crucial. A balanced approach that leverages economic cooperation with China, especially through CPEC, and diplomatic ties with the US can provide Pakistan with strategic advantages. De-escalating tensions with India. While historical animosities between Pakistan and India run deep, finding avenues for dialogue on trade, water security, and regional cooperation could help ease tensions. This does not mean compromising on core issues, but rather engaging in constructive diplomacy to avoid unnecessary conflicts. Active role in Afghanistan's stability. As Afghanistan continues to face turmoil, Pakistan must play a constructive role in ensuring regional stability. Helping to broker peace within Afghanistan not only secures Pakistan's borders but also builds Pakistan's reputation as a regional peace broker. Fifth, fostering national unity. National unity is crucial for Pakistan's long-term stability, and to foster this, promoting a shared national identity. Pakistan must cultivate a sense of belonging among all its citizens, whether Punjabis, Sindhis, Baloch or Pashtun. Celebrating the country's diversity while emphasizing common national goals can help bridge divides. resolving provincial grievances, addressing the long outstanding issues in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is a key to national unity. Economic developments projects, increased representation, and addressing human rights concerns are step in the right direction. Sixth, combating extremism and radicalization. Extremism poses one of the greatest threats to Pakistan's security. To counter it, rehabilitation programs for radicals. Pakistan must invest in de-radicalization programs that provide education, vocational training, and psychological support to individuals susceptible to extremist ideologies. Monitoring and regulation of religious schools. Madrasas that promote extremist ideologies must be reformed. Incorporating modern subjects alongside religious education will provide students with a broader worldview and equip them for modern day challenges. Seventh, investing in human capital. Finally, long-term growth depends on investment in human capital, education and health. By improving access to quality education and healthcare, Pakistan can lift millions out of poverty, reduce inequality, and create a more resilient and informed population. Women's empowerment. Empowering women to participate fully in the economy and society will have a multiple effect on Pakistan's development. Ensuring equal opportunities for women, especially in education and employment, is essential for sustainable progress. A vision for a new Pakistan. A new path forward for Pakistan requires a collective commitment to reform, tolerance, and diplomacy. The challenges are significant, but with the political will and a focus on solution that prioritize the well-being of all its citizens, Pakistan can move towards a brighter, more stable future. By embracing democratic values, social inclusion, economic reform, and international diplomacy, Pakistan has the potential to transform itself into a nation that not only survives but thrives. As we reach the end of this discussion, it is clear that Pakistan stands at a crossroads, facing challenges from within and from its strategic environment. The future, however, is not written in stone. The choices we make today will shape the country's trajectory for generations to come. While the threats are real, they are not insurmountable. What Pakistan needs now is collective resolve, bold leadership, and a clear vision for the future. First, engaged citizens, accountable leaders. The time has come for the people of Pakistan to demand accountability, transparency, and justice from their leaders. Democracy cannot thrive in a system plagued by corruption, religious intolerance, and political instability. Every Pakistani citizen must take an active role in this process, be it through voting, civic engagement, or holding local and national representatives to account. Your voice matters, and your involvement is key to steering the nation towards a path of growth and progress. Second, bridging divides, building unity. Pakistan's strength lies in its diversity. Yet for too long, sectarian and ethnic divides have been exploited by those seeking power at the expense of national unity. It is time for Pakistanis to rise above the divisions of the past and work together for a shared future. We must foster an inclusive national identity that values tolerance, respect, and unity. Together we are stronger. Together we can build a more cohesive and resilient Pakistan. Third, reclaiming our economic future. A prosperous Pakistan is one that invests in its people and future. Economic reforms, job creation, and youth empowerment will pave the way for a brighter tomorrow. But this requires sacrifices, discipline, and long-term planning. By reducing corruption, embracing innovations, and strengthening key sectors like education and healthcare, we can reclaim our economic future and ensure a better quality of life for all. Fourth, diplomacy and regional cooperation. In an interconnected world, Pakistan must engage proactively with its neighbors and global powers rather than being caught in the crossfire of global rivalries. Pakistan should position itself as a leader in regional stability by building strong diplomatic relationships, especially with key players like China, the United States, and India. Pakistan can play a pivotal role in shaping a peaceful and prosperous South Asia. The responsibility to build a better future for Pakistan does not rest on one institution, one leader, or one group. It is a shared responsibility that each of us must carry. Whether you are a politician, a teacher, a farmer, or a student, the power to make a difference lies in your hands. This is not just about survival. It is about creating a Pakistan that thrives, a Pakistan where democracy flourishes, where diversity is celebrated, and where every citizen has the opportunity to succeed. Pakistan's challenges may be complex, but the solutions are within our reach. We must act now with courage and conviction to create the future we all desire. The road ahead will not be easy, but with unity, accountability, and a vision for a better tomorrow, Pakistan can overcome any obstacle and rise to its true potential. The time for action is now. Let's build a better Pakistan together. Pakistan's survival is at stake. Navigating its internal and external challenges require not just military might, but economic reforms, political inclusion, and diplomatic agility. My message to policy makers. Pakistan's leaders must recognize the importance of moral leadership and inclusive governance in steering the country out of crisis. To my viewers, demand accountability from your leaders. Work for a Pakistan that is secure, just, and prosperous for all. Share your thoughts and let's continue the dialogue in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care of yourself and I'll see you then. Bye bye and Allah Hafiz.